little guy and his friend in a memory from the past as they are running around a city that is under some major catastrophe. The kids were attacked pretty badly, and while the black-haired one was just fine, the other one showed signs of some major injuries. On a private plane, Hayato had come to the ship to attend a military school so he could become a slayer and fight savages for the sake of humanity. Upon his arrival, Hayato is welcomed by quite the hyped girls, and even though he stays low initially, the crowd recognizes and gathers around him. After getting out somehow, Emilia keeps clinging on to Hayato until the students attend the opening ceremony for the new session, where the student council president, Claire Harvey, prepares to give a speech. Before things could start rolling though, Claire gets mad at the two girls who got late. Directly, Claire moves to ask Hayato's take on the matter. The guy firmly stands his ground and calls Claire out on her absurdity, which then leads to a duel between the two on the next day. Since Hayato was genius enough to challenge Claire without even having experience as a slayer, Emilia takes him to the laboratory where they meet the technician Charlotte. Charlotte gives Hayato his very own battlesuit known as 100, and on the first try, it really clicks with Hayato. Emilia then leads Hayato to the training ground where after a little rough journey, Hayato somehow manages to make heads and tails out of the suit. That night, after getting knocked out and waking up in Emilia's lap, Hayato finds out that Emilia is his roommate, and as Vice President Liddy explains the rule of the bout, Claire declares that she will let Hayato have a chance and not use her full body armament or 100% power. Emilia is also allowed to support Hayato on the back end, and as the duel commences, the first thing Hayato does is crash right into Claire. Such an act pisses Claire off, and she starts launching attacks while Hayato doesn't seem to be in a good position despite directions from Emilia. Hayato sees a bit of hope when he successfully pulls off a sword technique, but in the end, he hits a wall as Claire blows him away, leaving him at a low power percentage. The duel is seeming to be done and dusted when, surprisingly for the crowd, Claire pulls out her Buster Cannon, but right before the blast could hit Hayato, the standard anime plot armor does something yet again. A switch flips inside Hayato, and his movements change completely, pushing Claire back. The guy shocks the crowd when he pulls off a full-body armament on his first try, and such an offense makes Claire equip her armament too. Despite going wild, Hayato's lack of experience causes him to burn out first, and Claire officially wins the duel. Emilia tends to Hayato, and before leaving, Claire announces that the match would be declared a tie since she didn't keep her word. Later on, when Hayato wakes up in the infirmary, Claire shows interest in him and tells him that she won't expel those students anymore. With a sigh of relief, Hayato finally recovers a couple of days later with the help of Emilia, and Emilia decides to take Hayato out on a tour of the city. The pair have their fun, but they don't get to spend the whole thing together as Hayato's little sister, Karen, suspects that Emilia is a girl and pulls up to join the two. Seeing Emilia, Karen leaves it at that, and the trip continues further. After having fun, the three sit down to have lunch when Claire visits them with her followers and Chris to recruit Hayato in a special unit called the Selection as a slayer. Claire didn't want to waste any potential talent as they were already low on slayers, but this time again, Emilia steps up, demanding to join as well. Emilia is to show his capabilities, and that almost starts a duel between him and Liddy if it wasn't for the danger alert. Apparently, Zwei Island was under attack, and it was the special unit's job to handle them. So while Claire and her team were leaving, Charlotte pops up from nowhere and tells them to take the other two along as well. Claire takes the guys to a secret chamber where members of the staff are preparing a brief on the mission ahead of them. The island was attacked by 3 savages, and seeing their class, Claire was rather reluctant to let Emilia and Hayato join them. Charlotte remarks that the main computer of the little garden, called Lisa, is approving Hayato and Emilia's inclusion, so Claire eventually agrees. The first savage is attacked by Claire's team, and they show some pretty good teamwork while they take the savage down. Hayato and Emilia jump down to take the next one, but it wasn't as easy as they had hoped. The student council jumps in to help the newbies, but 2 of them get thrashed and Claire runs out of energy to spare. Claire also gets blown by a blast, but Hayato jumps in to save her just in time, and helps Claire out in dealing with the second savage in a combined effort. With the second one down and Claire a bit dizzy, Emilia ends up getting hurt in an attempt to deal with the last one, and seeing this jogs Hayato's memories, who recalls the events from the past and remembers that Emilia was his childhood friend Emilia all along. For the sake of saving his friend, Hayato also somewhat recalls his variant powers and goes berserk yet again. The guy is going absolutely crazy at first, but he eventually comes back to his senses and properly uses his powers to cut the savage in half. Hayato runs out of gas again and is leaning on Emilia's shoulder when Claire finds out about the truth too. Later on in the ship, the girls are revealed to be in a stable state as well, while Claire promises to keep Emilia's gender a secret for now. Later on, back at the dorm, Emilia reveals how Claire demanded her to change rooms, but of course, Emilia was never going to do that. If she did this, it wouldn't be much of a harem show, would it? Anyways, Hayato was caught lacking with Emilia by Claire, and the argument ends up starting a match of jealousy between the girls that makes the whole male dorm envious of Hayato and his luck. On a later date, Hayato is sparring with his friends and is somewhat successful in controlling his powers when he's called to the selection office for a new mission. Claire reveals how a famous idol named Sakura Kirishima was going to be performing on Zwei Island, and since there is still a possibility of another savage attack, she requested a bodyguard, specifically Hayato. Hayato agrees to take on the job and heads over to chat with Karen, who apparently is a big fan of Sakura. Hayato promises to get Karen an autograph and heads over to the airport with Liddy, where he meets Sakura. Liddy drives Sakura and Hayato to the hotel, but upon entering her room, Sakura immediately turns her attention over to Hayato, remarking how she is seriously impressed with him. Hayato continues to act awkward as Sakura goes on about the two of them getting married, and just when Hayato tries to flirt back, Sakura just bails out and runs to take a shower. After getting ready and everything, Sakura starts off with her daily tasks, and seeing her be productive really impresses Hayato. After getting things done, the crew moves to the stadium where Sakura will be performing her upcoming show, and there Sakura displays her own 100 that lets her take the form of something like a fairy. Sakura had gotten pretty close to Hayato, and they were already calling each other by their first names. After his duty is complete, Hayato reports back to Claire about how everything went, and she invites him over to her summer house, sounding a bit too excited. The day finally ends, and while Sakura is hoping to not let her fans down at night, we see how a group of people with yellow eyes like Hayato's have different plans. We get back to Sakura again the next morning as she wakes up to remember some memories of her late mother and how she told Sakura that music can add more colors to life. Sakura has a day off and she wonders about where Hayato is. Meanwhile, we find Hayato waiting to meet up with Emilia for the two to go on a date. Hayato appreciates seeing Emilia in female clothes for once, and the pair goes around town doing a little shopping. Their shopping gets interrupted when some friends from school also arrive in the same area, and our pair had to hide from them, cutting the shopping spree short. The two get out of the shopping area undetected and are trying to catch a break when Emilia offers to get Hayato something to drink. While Emilia was away, Claire calls Hayato on an emergency and reveals how Sakura is nowhere to be found. Claire tells Hayato to look around for her, and since Claire was angry seeing Hayato out with Emilia, Hayato promises to take her out sometime as well. Just when Hayato hangs up the phone, he finds Sakura waiting right beside him, telling him to follow her somewhere. Having too many girls to handle gets a bit tricky for our protagonist, and he ends up ditching Emilia for a date with Sakura now. Sakura was taking Hayato to the Zwei Grand Canyon, and seeing Hayato with yet another girl keeps making Claire jealous. The pair finally reaches the Grand Canyon, and while they are enjoying the view, Sakura opens up to Hayato and reveals a little bit about her past and how this place was important to her and her mother. Sakura remarks how after her mother's death and her father sold her away as a test subject due to her conditions, at that laboratory she became capable of using 100 after being injected with savage fluid. Sakura also reveals how even though she can use 100, she is a bit too weak to physically fight a savage. The conversation went on for a bit, and while the two were talking, Sakura realized that Hayato and Karen were the kids she met when she had lost her mother, and they were the reason she continued to sing from that moment onward. This discovery draws Sakura even closer to Hayato, and along with the other girls, she had pretty much fallen for Hayato completely as well. Hayato's day filled with girls was finally coming to an end as she was heading back with Sakura. But the whole scene twists yet again, as now they were supposed to deal with a Trenton-class savage that had attacked their bus. Naturally, being the only Slayer around, Hayato had to engage Savage alone, while at the headquarters, Claire and her team are praying that this dude holds out until reinforcement arrives. Fighting while defending the commoners was getting hard for our protagonist, but with some help from Sakura and her barrier, Hayato successfully cuts the savage down. The celebration does not last all that long when another savage pulls up and this time knocks Sakura down. Hayato is trying to help Sakura back on her feet when Emilia arrives with some backup. The group charges pretty well, but their attacks don't do all that much as the savage was capable of regenerating. Hayato sees an opportunity when the savage reacts to Sakura's voice, but before he could do something, a small boy dashes in on him and knocks Hayato out cold. The boy had 2 girls with him, and they absolutely annihilated the savage. The kids are trying to dig the core out of the savage's body. In the process starts a little fight between the kids and Hayato's team. The kids were the ones with the glowing eyes earlier on, and they were pretty damn strong. However, to Hayato's luck, they did a tactical retreat when more reinforcement arrived for Hayato. With everyone safe for now, Hayato reports back to Claire, and there we get to know how savage cores are extremely valuable items, as they can be used to build variable suits in hundreds as well. Claire praises Emilia and the other 2 for their efforts, and later on while walking back to the dorm, Hayato apologizes to Emilia for ghosting her like that on their date. Since Sakura's concert was on the next day, she texts Hayato to meet up with her at the beach, where she shows a lack of confidence in her singing. Sakura remarks how her singing is due to her variant powers, but while she was feeling down, Hayato successfully cheers her up with some support. The concert is held on the next day, and Sakura wins the hearts of the whole crowd with a stellar performance. Hayato also manages to get Karen her autograph later on when Sakura was leaving, and he himself receives a peck on the cheek from the idol. The situation with Sakura's concert was solved for now, but the chaos was still in there in Hayato's life, as he woke up to find all the girls fighting for him yet again. Quite a problem to have in one's life, huh? A couple of days passed by after that event involving Sakura, and later on, Hayato was in the school building with Emilia when he's told to come to the student council room by Claire. The other 2 friends from the last fight, named Fritz and Latia, were also there, and Claire explains how they're supposed to take part in a joint mission against savages, as her brother, Jude or Harvey, told her to do so. Both newbies were stalked for being a part of the selection when Judor randomly approaches Hayato and tells him to follow him somewhere alone. Hayato follows him, and he ends up entering the main power chamber of the little garden, where Judar introduces Hayato to Lisa. The main computer system of the whole ship was actually Lisa Harvey, Claire's sister, and before they could talk further, Claire charged in and pointed a gun at them. Claire was completely against the idea of letting Hayato in, but after hearing about Hayato's special blood, Claire lets it slide. Hayato touches the pot to wake Lisa up from her slumber, but nothing really seems to happen. Judar tells the other 2 to be aware of a woman called Vitaly, who is probably after the recent attack, and leaves after embarrassing Claire by remarking that she should marry Hayato. The pair also head out after Judar leaves, and Claire makes Hayato promise her that he won't leak any of the information that he just got. The crew gets on the plane, and it is revealed how they are headed to the camp in the city of Tianquan. Upon their arrival, Emilia receives an overexcited welcome from a girl named Claudia, who reveals that Emilia is actually a princess and was lying to Hayato all along. Claudia wanted Emilia to come back, but seeing how she was more interested in staying near Hayato makes Claudia challenge the dude in a dojo. Claudia picks up the most over-the-top and savage weapon to crack Hayato's skull or something, but our protagonist actually shows some skill this time as he defeats Claudia pretty easily. With the matter with Claudia finally sorted for now, Hayato heads out to do some shopping with Emilia on the following night, but problems seem to be just as attached to Hayato as girls are, when we find the same variant kids from earlier sneaking around town in hooded cloaks. On the next morning, the task at hand is explained to the Slayers, and their teams are formed as well. Claudia, Claire, and Emilia were in Hayato's team, and they start off pretty well when Claire shows her prowess while Claudia forcibly tries to keep Hayato away from Emilia. Fritz's group was also doing well, and we see how the kids, who were actually hunters, are also in the same forest keeping an eye on the Slayers. The tasks for the first day go pretty smoothly, and at night, the group decides to further split into teams so they can watch over the whole time. Naturally, Emilia wanted to go with Hayato, but with some jealousy from both Claire and Claudia, she ended up in Erica's team. Hayato was with Claire and Claudia, and they were having a nice time when Claudia plotted something to make Hayato lose interest in Emilia, but instead, that led to him saving Claire and getting her even more interested in him. The situation was under control for now, but with the hunters about to make a move soon, A tough time awaits Hayato, and our recap comes to an end. Comment down below what show you want to see next, and don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on future videos. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.